Call the meeting to order, and while some of us wait on our computers to come up, we'll resort to our paper copy here and get underway so we won't be detained any longer than we necessarily need to be tonight. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting called and convened this August the 25th, 2015. Being duly assembled, I'd like to ask you, if you would please, to join us in standing as we pledge allegiance to the flag and then remain standing while Councilman Lee Dumas leads us in our invocation.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight thanking you for this great city and this opportunity for us to come together again as a council and to discuss the city and discuss its business tonight. And we ask that you watch over those that are out serving us and those that live here in this great city, state, nation, and the world that we live in today. Be with us as we humbly serve you. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We set aside a time for public forum, an opportunity for folks to speak towards those items that may be of interest to us as pertains to our agenda this evening. Ms. Adams, do we have anybody to appear in public forum?
No, sir.
With that, then, we'll move to the minutes of council meeting. Council, you should have the minutes from the August 11th, 2015 meeting. I'll entertain a motion that they be received.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Bookert?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, you also have departmental reports. This is the activity for July 2015. You'll find contained in those reports information relative to the different departments, including our financial department, and we've asked Mr. Seifert to be with us this evening to give us an update in regards to financial activity.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Pleased to be here tonight to present the July financial budget report. And as you're aware, this is the first month of our fiscal year. So we'll begin with the general fund. We have revenue recorded of $399,989 with expenditures of $1,240,706. That expenditure amount carries us 2% under budget at July 31st, 2015. If you'll reference the dashboards, we have a combined negative dashboard variance for July of $168,356. And then for the cash balance, we have a carrying cash value at July 31st of $7,642,552. Moving to the hospitality fund, we have revenue recorded of $164,244. Noting there, the revenue in the hospitality fund for July is 2% over budget. And we have expenditures recorded of $11,244. That is 7% under budget on the expenditure side for hospitality. The cash carrying value for July in the hospitality fund is $828,705. And finally, moving to our stormwater fund, we have revenue recorded of $261 and expenditures of $11,414. And the expenditures there in the stormwater fund are 6% under budget for July. And then the last item there for the stormwater fund, our carrying cash value for July in stormwater is $795,532. If you have any questions now, I'll be happy to take those, or if you have any in the future, we will be at your disposal.
Thank you, sir. Floor is open for questions. Thank you. We appreciate the report and the update. With that, we'll move to our first presentation this evening. The first presentation this evening is going to be brought by good folks at CPW, our partners in growth and development and providing for our citizens. We're going to receive information tonight in regards to a subject that they have been working on, and we're going to present to the community relative to removing fluoride from our water supply, and want to recognize that we've got some folks from CPW with us, both from the staff side and as well as one of our commissioners, Mr. Perry Williams, who joins us. And I want to thank you for being with us this evening, as well as Mr. Jeff Tuttle, who serves as the director there. And so, fellas, I'm going to turn the floor over to, looks like Mr. Tuttle is making his way to the podium, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you this evening, and appreciate your time. I'll introduce the staff. He had introduced Commissioner Williams, and he'll be our incoming chair for 2016. But Brad Nelson, who is our manager at our water treatment facility, long experience and tenure within the water treatment and water industry. Matthew Brady, who's our public information officer. David Hancock, who's our manager of our water, sewer, and wastewater treatment operations at Greer CPW. Let me first give a perspective. I want to be turning it over to Brad shortly. Back in April timeframe of this year, March-April timeframe of this year, Health and Human Services with the federal government actually took an action to lower the recommended concentration of fluoride that is placed in drinking water. Historically, the range has been 0.7 micrograms per liter up to 1.2, and they elected, based on the prevalence of fluoride and many things that we use and consume on a daily basis, recommended that that concentration just be lowered to 0.7 milligrams per liter. So that, and with additional questions that we've received from a few new customers coming into the area, we thought it would be an appropriate time to sponsor a public discourse on fluoride in the drinking water. We believe it's worthwhile, and several communities have entered that discourse and public discussion. Actually, the most prevalent right now being the city of Denver. The city of Denver is going through the same identical discussion, having a very large public forum on July 29th. And actually encourage you to kind of go to Google Denver fluoride discussion, and you'll get a lot of great information, both pro and against continued fluoridation of the drinking water. What we intend to do is have a public discourse, actually starting with tonight, give an opportunity to make a brief presentation to council, get your perspective or your thoughts, and we'll continue to gain information from yourself and the public throughout the rest of the year. We'll have the first of the public input sessions actually this coming Thursday, in a couple days, at the Cannon Center at 6:30 p.m. We'll have another public input session next Tuesday, September 1st, at the Cannon Center at 6:30, and then a following session September 9th at Blue Ridge High School to accommodate our wholesale customers. Blue Ridge Water District have a chance to also provide input to us on their thoughts on the continued fluoridation of drinking water. So at this point in time, let me hand it over to Brad Nelson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I want to thank you for this opportunity to share some information regarding fluoridation of drinking water and fluoride specifically. I noticed on the agenda it said this discussion was going to be regarding the removal of fluoride from the water. We're not focusing on removing fluoride. As Mr. Tuttle stated, we want to find out what our community, our customers that we serve, we feel the best drinking water in the nation feels about fluoridation. Fluoride is an additive to the drinking water, and that's basically what my presentation is on. Is going to be based on is providing information on drinking water fluoridation and fluoride specifically. What you see before you now is the actual AWWA, American Water Works Association regulatory public affairs alert announcing the United States Health and Human Services recommended reduction of the fluoride concentration to 0.7 milligrams per liter. Since 1962, the Health and Human Services of the United States has recommended a dosage range from 0.7 to 1.2. The reason since April, when this alert or public affairs advisory was issued, is because of the increased availability in fluoride in over-the-counter products such as toothpaste, mouthwashes, rinses, and you'll soon see in a lot of food products that people aren't aware of that do contain fluoride. But one of the most interesting aspects of this alert is that although AWWA, and this is the last paragraph, supports the recommendations of the Centers for Disease Control, the American Dental Association, and other public health organizations for the fluoridation of public water supplies as a public health benefit, this is subject to community acceptance. And this is really what's triggering our public input sessions. We want to be transparent to our public. This is the public's drinking water. What do our customers feel about adding fluoride to the drinking water? I have been receiving more calls lately from customers that are concerned about what's in their drinking water, and rightly so. So we want to find out what our community has to say. So brief history. Fluoridated drinking water began in Grand Rapids, Michigan in the early 50s. It was discovered that staining teeth in the upper Midwest also was a result of high levels of fluoride found in their source waters. But that where the staining was the greatest, they also had the lowest rates of tooth decay. And that's when they discovered fluoride in the source water and agreed on an optimum dose or an optimum concentration of 1 milligram per liter to prevent the staining, but also maintain the reduced decay of tooth enamel. Greer CPW's water plant was built in 1971, and we've been fluoridating the drinking water at that water plant at Lake Cunningham since 1975. There's also the discussion systemic versus topical application. Systemic or systematic is ingesting the fluoride like we do when it's added to the public drinking water supply. It gets into your bloodstream, makes its way to the saliva in your mouth, excuse me, and it's topically applied consistently, continuously through the saliva in your mouth, versus topical, which is from toothpaste, mouthwashes, and mouth rinses. There's some debate on that. The facts about fluoride. The potential for tooth staining begins at 10 milligrams per day. Fluoride successfully does decrease instances of dental cavities, strengthens teeth, and plays an important role in dental health. There's no argument there. Drinking water fluoridation is encouraged by the American Medical Association, Dental Association, American Water Works Association, and South Carolina DHEC. More people consume fluoridated drinking water in the United States than any other industrialized country in the world. Drinking water fluoridation is not required. It's an option. It's up to community acceptance. The federal government or state health departments do not require drinking water fluoridation. Fluoride is readily available in many over-the-counter products. The maximum fluoride limit in drinking water, as set by federal and state regulatory agencies, is 4 milligrams per liter, contrary to the new recommended concentration of 0.7. Greer CPW currently complies with the recommended dose of 0.7 or concentration of 0.7 milligrams per liter of fluoride in its drinking water. Availability. Where can you get fluoride today that maybe you couldn't get 20, 30 years ago? Over 95% of all toothpastes are fluoridated. Fluoridated mouthwashes, dental treatments, black tea, our sweet tea, our southern tea, I've done the test myself, has 5.7 milligrams per liter of fluoride, which is natural fluoride from the environment that gets into the tea leaves and then into the tea we drink. And remember, fluorosis begins at 10 milligrams per liter, or 10 milligrams per day. Concord grape juice, orange juice, Diet Cola has 0.72 milligrams per liter fluoride. Vegetables, seafood, processed beverages, sodas, drinks, And this entire list can be accessed, if you'd like to look yourself, in the U.S. Department of Agricultural database, and there's the link right there. This information will all be available, is available today on GreerCPW.com's website. So if you'd like to look for yourself, I strongly encourage that. It's up to community acceptance. Here's a list of some communities, very large cities around the United States that once did fluoridate their drinking water that now do not, for reasons of their own. You can see there that a good many of them, this is a short list, since 2010, have ceased fluoridating their drinking water. And there's some countries overseas, Europe, Japan, never fluoridated their drinking water. The country of Israel fluoridated all of its drinking water until just last year. August of 2014, they no longer add fluoride to their drinking water, again for reasons of their own. The majority of large water utilities in South Carolina continue to fluoridate. The majority of rural, locally governed community water systems in South Carolina do not. Bishopville fluoridated until 2001, and they no longer fluoridate. So again, it is up to community acceptance. It's not required. There are those that were there that are today are not. This is a list of the sources where my information has come from. Again, this is available on our website. If you'd like to do some research on your own, it's easily acquired. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions that council has?
Council, the floor is open for discussion. I believe we can get some folks back to the podium there to kind of help us out here with any discussion that we might have. I guess I do have one question. You mentioned that it apparently was occurring naturally in the water when it was discovered. You pointed out that vegetables, grapes, different kinds of things apparently are pulling it from the soil as well too. So it's a naturally occurring compound that is typically a trace element, so to speak, in the soil?
That's correct. There's two types of fluoride. There's sodium fluoride found naturally in the environment, which comes up through the soil and gets into plants, grapes, tea leaves, etc. There's 1.2 milligrams per liter sodium fluoride found in the world's oceans. So there's about half that residual found in all the seafood and shellfish we eat that comes from the ocean. The other is a man-made fluoride. It's called hydrofluorocyclic acid, and that is the compound that contains the fluoride ion that is typically used to fluoridate drinking water.
And one of the reasons that they have a range, that a range was established, is for different regions in the United States to accommodate their whole different background sources of fluoride within their particular area. Up north, it's a little bit less common in certain areas. Down south, especially along the coast, a little bit higher background level of fluoride. So the range was intended to accommodate public drinking water systems, to accommodate your background residual fluoride that you might find in the environment and your drinking water, your raw source of water.
Typically groundwater systems, water systems that have deep wells and the like, they have high levels of sodium fluoride and actually have to reduce the concentration to the desired or recommended limits, in this case 0.7 since April. Surface water sources like here in Greer, surface water being a lake, Lake Cunningham, Lake Robinson and the like, there is fluoride present, but it's at much lower than the recommended concentration. We have less than 0.1 natural fluoride in Lake Cunningham, so we have to artificially boost it to the recommended concentration using what's known as HFS acid.
The places that have chosen to discontinue it, what are the reasons that they have given to do that?
Public education. People are more aware. You know, if you want to blame it on Google, you know, people can get information about their water. We have a water quality report that is issued every year. That's required by EPA. All water systems have to keep their public informed on what's going on with the drinking water, increased awareness.
I guess
receive-
my question is, what's the detriment to having it in your water?
People want fresh water. They don't want chemicals in it, basically, is the short answer.
What's the harm of fluoride in your water?
Well, drinking too much can lead to fluorosis of the teeth. If you look at that one list that we presented, and fluorosis has a tendency to start at 10 milligrams
10 milligrams
per day.
Mhm.
And if you go through there, many folks would want choice. They look at, well, I'm getting all my recommended dose of fluoride through brushing my teeth 2 or 3 times a day, taking my mouthwashes, drinking the water, and I'm getting over 10 milligrams a day. So I think largely governed by, one, a more educated public, and folks want choice relative to, if you have it in your drinking water, you don't have choice there, or you have to buy bottled water or something else to drink. There are numerous studies, and I'd encourage you to go to the website. There are suggestions, although conflicting studies. There has been suggestions that increased fluoride levels can lead to lower IQ among children, among those folks that are exposed to fluoride over a long period of time. There's been some studies to suggest that it might be connected to attention deficit disorder. So there's different studies, although some of them aren't entirely conclusive. Depending on what side you're talking to, they'll either say they are conclusive or not conclusive, but you kind of have to make up your own mind when you see that. But it's primarily education and choice. A lot of people see when they see this long list and saying, I get plenty in what I use and consume every day. Give me choice.
I think the only complaint that I've ever received, and I think we all got it, was from someone who had a sensitivity, somehow, an outward sensitivity to
And
it.
they would shower.
Yeah, is that the case? Is that true with some people?
That was chloride.
It could manifest itself, as I understand, in a few cases, but
I think that was a different
I
problem.
have not seen that in the research itself.
And I may have missed it. Why is if we get it naturally from so many different things, why is the fluoride put into the water? I mean, why does it do or break down some other things that?
Well, it didn't used to be as readily available.
Okay.
20, 30 years ago, you didn't have to hunt for a tube of toothpaste that didn't contain fluoride.
Right, okay.
Mouth rinses,
So
dental treatment.
years back, it was there as sort of a health aid, I guess,
Yes,
for your
ma'am.
teeth or whatever. Yeah.
That was probably one of the few sources of fluoride that we did receive at that point in time, was fluoride within the drinking water.
So is there a change in the taste if you take it out, or is there better health-wise for us to do without it?
Well, as manager of your water treatment plant here in Greer, the commissioners have hired me to make the best possible drinking water that I can
Right.
for our community. I feel that the best water has the fewest chemicals used to treat the water to meet voluntary goals that are much more stringent than the state requirements, DHEC requirements, and EPA requirements. And for 8 years, we have met those voluntary goals and received awards for drinking water quality. I'm neither for or against. I'm not denying the fact that fluoride does prevent cavities in
Right.
teeth. But again, as manager of the water plant, it's a chemical. It's the last thing we put in our excellent drinking water before it leaves the water plant. And personally, I would like to have the choice of whether or not I would consume something. And I think our customers deserve the opportunity to voice their opinions.
So in that, are you saying you would prefer to leave the fluoride out?
Given the fact that it's as available today as it is it necessary? There's
Right.
people that say yes, it still is. But there's an increased number of customers that are calling my office that would like to see it out but don't believe it's necessary.
Right.
For example, one thing that they have done in a lot of literature is they look at the evidence of tooth decay. And for example, one of the continents that does not fluoridate their drinking water is Europe. Actually, there's no higher evidence of tooth decay in the European population than that of the United States population, who has prevalent fluoridation of public drinking water supply. So that's pretty readily available as evidence of tooth decay. Is no higher or no more prevalent in those countries that do not
But I might
fluoridate their water.
add, in Europe, they have table salt that is available for purchase in the grocery stores that contain fluoride. So if you do choose to consume it systematically, systemically, you have that choice. If you don't, you can buy a pound of salt or however it's sold over there without. But they don't put it in the public drinking water.
Right. Well, with all the mention of items that you brought up that so many of us consume, and it also being in the soil, and if it doesn't cause any difference in the taste to, I mean, because I drink a lot of water at home, and my water tastes good. So if it doesn't cause any difference in the taste, and we stand to be getting more fluoride than we need, then, you know, it would kind of be to lower it or take it out.
That's one of the points that I tried to make, and maybe didn't make exceptionally clear, was that a dose, or a recommended concentration, of 0.7 milligrams per liter is very low.
Oh, it sounds low, yeah.
And is it necessary to still be there when the American Water Works Association and the United States Health and Human Services is saying that there's so much out there, we're having to lower it to prevent overdosing, if you will? This is what raises the question. And we'd like to know what our community has to say.
Well, plus we don't drink all the water, right? I mean, it goes, flushes toilets and is used for the
That's
showers
true.
and
We
waters.
estimate actually 1% of what we actually produce at the plant is actually consumed as drinking water. 99% of it is either flushed down the toilet, used to wash dishes, goes onto the lawn, those types of applications. So
But of course, it's in every gallon of water that leaves the water plant.
Is that a cost factor or anything
Oh, yeah.
with the fluoride?
it's
Yeah.
a small cost.
Yeah.
It's not something that breaks the bank. Chemical costs for fluoride every year run between about $30,000 to $40,000 a year, and roughly 99% of that goes not to its intended purpose for dental health. But that's not the rationale for our discussion here. We could eliminate fluoride in drinking water. It's not going to impact rates in any way or form.
Right.
So you're looking for a decision from consumers, your consumers, one way or the other. How are you going to gauge that to decide keep it or get rid of it?
Actually, we want to sit back and listen. We want to sit back and hear what our customers are saying, have them look at the website, get their own information, weigh in on the topic, either at the public forums or through Facebook or blogs on our website, the responses. We believe that dialogue is important. Actually, as I understand, SJWD actually did a survey not too long ago, I guess within the last 5 years, where they just solicited the input of their customers on, do you want fluoride in your drinking water, without any other educational materials. And we've pretty much grown up with the philosophy that, or at least I did, it's just, you had it in your drinking water. It's just, you had it there. But then if you start getting a little bit more into it, the potential effects of it, folks wanting to have choice. I think that's a prevalent thing among customers and individuals today, or the population is. Our customers and all of us want more choice in what we consume. And I think that's largely what's being driven, is give me choice.
It can be filtered out at the house, can't it?
Understand a reverse osmosis unit would filter it out.
Not your normal refrigerator filter.
No, that will not.
or like a Brita filter on your sink faucet.
right.
Or like a reverse osmosis, like
But
that could be supplied.
if you can't tell the difference, and if it's not in there to kill something else that's in the water, but the water still tastes good without it, and we're getting it everywhere else. And maybe that would help with some of the ADHD.
You're voting to take it out.
Do you know what level Greenville has in their water?
Yes, Greenville does. Local, large utilities in South Carolina all do. The nearest, well,
Well, the level, do you know what the level Greenville does?
there's .7. They
0.7,
charge 0.7.
same
They
as
all
ours.
follow the recommended concentration.
I'm just curious how they come up with a recommended concentration. I mean, there are no studies that show 0.7 milligrams per liter of fluoride added to the water reduces tooth decay because we get it from so many different sources now. It's so difficult to track, and we don't live in a vacuum. How do you figure out a recommended amount to where you don't get fluorosis and you get that overexposure to it?
Fluoridated drinking water, since it started, I believe it was in 1954, has been called one of the 10 greatest medical advances in history because of its dental
Yeah.
effect. It does prevent tooth decay.
Right.
It has been proven. But as the years have gone by, it's become known that it has become more readily available in over-the-counter products, and now it's discovered in all these food products. That the dose or the concentration has been lowered and lowered and lowered to where it is now. It's time to ask the question, is it necessary? If it is, our community still wants it, we'll keep on keeping on.
Well, and I think that's the essential point that we need to make tonight, that y'all have charted a course where you're going to gather information and no more public process can take place than to have the input of the general public. And I want to thank the commissioners for their commitment to award-winning water for the citizens of Greer, and it sounds to me like y'all are well on that path, and we appreciate y'all's efforts in that regard. I know our public will appreciate your efforts to hear them, and we'll be competent in whatever decision that y'all make. So thank y'all for coming and presenting it to us this evening. We wish you well in those presentations and hope it goes well, and we'll see what the feedback is, and we'll know that y'all will do the right thing for us.
Thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
The water tastes good. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't want them talking about, we want them talking about our water rather than Greenville's water on Kelly and Michael in the morning. So let's get in front of those folks. Thank y'all for what you do. We do appreciate it. Kirsten Presley, who is our court administrator, is going to give us her annual report tonight. We appreciate Kirsten being with us, and give us an update on what has taken place and what is going to take place. Get a few insights into that. We don't want to keep her too late. She's got a busy day tomorrow, as Wednesday is court day in Greer, and so with that, Kirsten, the floor is going to be yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's my privilege to come before you tonight to present my annual municipal court report. The Greer Municipal Court serves as the judicial arm of the city. Our goal is always to exceed expectations while providing excellent service to our community. We have various uses for our courtroom and hearing usage, which continue to increase each year. Some of the occurrences in our courtroom and our hearing room include traffic court, which the mayor mentioned is every Wednesday. Tomorrow's not such a bad day, about 230 cases compared to the last two where it was 400 plus. We have preliminary hearings, pretrial conferences, domestic violence court, which I'm saving for the end, jury trials and plea days. We allow Judge Sims, Greenville County Magistrate, to use our facilities. The Department of Motor Vehicles holds administrative hearings there. By allowing them to use that, it keeps our officers in the city, whereas they would have to travel out for these types of hearings. The police department uses our courtroom for things such as Leadership Greer, Junior Leadership Greer, and recently we had 2 Youth Academy graduations held in there. This year, we also had a neighborhood watch group that asked to use our facility, which we agreed to. It allowed the Greer Police Department and Greenville County Sheriff's Office to come in together to help the community that they were working with to solve some problems in there. They were extremely appreciative of the facility. And of course, we hold arraignments twice a day, every day, for whatever defendants have been brought in for the day. This year, our arrest warrants were down slightly, 9%. We issued 1,056 arrest warrants and conducted 1,213 arraignments. In those arraignments, the 1,213 is the number of defendants. Each defendant could have anywhere from 1 to 30 or 40 charges, just to give you an idea of how many charges are going through in front of one of our judges. We issued 43 search warrants, which was down slightly, 8%, and 15 orders for the production of records. Our ministerial recorders, who are also called our administrative judges, this year, they, as always, are required to have 14 hours of training, 3 hours of that being ethics. This is the baseline. I believe that training is vital, especially in our environment. It's ever-changing. So I do use that as just the baseline, and most of our administrative judges get training in the range of 30 to 40 hours. They all attend annual domestic violence training, substance abuse, and mental health counseling. I conduct quarterly in-house training with them, and they also participate in the online safety training program that the city has. Some of their challenges, as usual, we have lots of new case laws, and it seems as though almost every year we get one new large law that comes from our legislatures. This year it's the Domestic Violence Reform Act. This is a very large change to our domestic violence laws. We went from a fairly simple law to an extremely complex law with several different degrees and different variables that are associated with that. It's taken a lot of training and a lot of time to kind of digest this new way of handling this. The last time there was an update in our domestic violence laws was January 2006. It was well overdue. We constantly have changes in our procedures that are dictated by the South Carolina Court Administration, and I just plugged in there another new law that brought us in compliance with a federal gun law is South Carolina now has an unlawful gun possession law that's associated with those that are convicted of domestic violence crimes. Some of our clerks' achievements, training through the Municipal Association. They all have to attend victim service provider training. It's required every other year. I make mine go every year. This assists them in helping the victims that come through our court. It helps them know what services are available. It teaches them the Victim's Bill of Rights and what the law says that they're entitled to. I have one clerk that's active member of the Wellness Committee, and we also completed active shooter training in the court this year. And as every other year, it's continuous maintenance of all of our files, monitoring of programs, alternative sentencing. It's a constant process of fostering our partnerships with our service providers, and they too participate in the quarterly online safety training through the Municipal Association. Some of the challenges, just like the administrative judges, the clerks also have to learn all of the new laws and case laws. They have to be readily available to answer questions to the public at the front counter on the phone. They also are a resource for our judge when they're on the bench. They have to know the law as well as the administrative judges do. So again, lots of training, lots of guide sheets so that they are able to confidently answer the new questions about the law. They also have to know all of the changes in our bond procedures and paperwork for the same reason, and changes from South Carolina Court Administration apply to them, including their ethics. And as always, I have to mention expungements because it's our favorite. This year we processed 476 expungements, down a whole 3% from last year. I have 3 clerks that initiate these orders. They begin the process, but every single one of them comes to my desk. It's verified, it's checked. I'm the only one that can remove them from the computer, and I make sure that every agency that's entitled to a copy gets that. The strategic plan, we're fairly limited in our participation in what we can do, but we can always improve our customer service program, and that's something we're always striving to do. We also have our community service program, which is a partnership between the police, the court, and public services. This year we had a 93% success rate with that program. 1,357 hours of time were completed with an average sentence of 32 hours per offender. Those offenders picked up 3,192 gallons of litter, and they removed 5,000 nails from the tennis courts. Our caseload this year, our cases filed, charges made by the police department was down 8%, 8,922 cases, and we processed out 9,417, a slight decrease, but pretty well in line with the prior year, pretty consistent. Our bench warrant activity, we issued 596, we served and processed out 635, both of those were an increase from the prior year. Anytime the warrants number that's disposed is higher than the number issued, it's a good year. That means that the charges are not backing up at the police department. They're serving more than we're issuing, and we always like to see those numbers in that kind of order. Our jury trials increased by 12% this year, and there's nothing that we can do to initiate this process. These are all requested by defendants and their attorneys. So we are completely at their mercy as to how many of these that we get in. We were able to schedule 330 this year in our 6 terms per year. 264 of those were disposed, and 66 were continued for various reasons, which could be officer unavailability to the defense attorney's inability to be there for that particular date. Those will be set up in the next year. Our preliminary hearings, those are held for Greenville County General Sessions charges. That can be anything up to a murder charge. What those do is it establishes the judge will decide if there's enough evidence to send that charge to a trial. Again, these are requested by the defendant. They don't have to have one, but they're entitled to one. Within 10 days of their arrest, they can request this from us. And again, this is just the Greenville side. We don't handle Spartanburg's preliminary hearings at all, but we had 281 of these hearings. Keeping in mind that's the number of defendants, each defendant can have multiple charges that are taken care of during this process. Our money collected this year, money taken up from the front counter pretty much from 2 people. Our 2 clerks that work our cashier spots at the front was a 13% increase. We collected $954,085.08. And out of that, our revenue was $326,165.97, which was a 9% increase from the prior year. And now is what I've saved as the best for last. I am extremely excited and proud to say that on October 8th of this year at 8:30 a.m., we will launch our brand new domestic violence court for the city of Greer. This is an idea that I have been playing with for the last several years, but we were just not at the point where we were ready for this type of a specialized court here. I've continuously analyzed the numbers, the percentages, the increases, and a few months ago decided that this was really the time for Greer to be involved in something like this. Little did I know, at the same time, our victim's advocate, Megan Weibel, had gone to her Lieutenant Presley, and she was also interested in this domestic violence court. So they came to me and asked me what I thought about it. I was so excited because there was no trying to convince anybody this was a great idea. We knew it was the right time. So we partnered. We partnered the court, the police department, the South Carolina Attorney General's office, and the city of Simpsonville. We had lots of meetings to begin with the Deputy Attorney General, and she is a specialized domestic violence prosecutor. It is the only thing she does. She travels the state, and she's funded by a grant, which means she is free to us. So after speaking with her boss said, we'd love to be in Greer, but in order to come that far from Columbia, it needs to be a full day of work. We only have enough cases to take up the morning. So at that point, Megan started contacting other local municipalities to see who else was interested and ready for this type of advancement. Simpsonville was more than happy. So we met with them, their police department, their court. In an hour, we had everything worked out, court dates and times and picked, and we were ready to launch the date. So that prosecutor will come to Greer in the morning, and she will go to Simpsonville in the afternoon. It will be every second Thursday of the month at 8:30 a.m. for us and 1:30 p.m. for Simpsonville. This will benefit the entire community. In one session, we can bring together the police officer, a specialized prosecutor, the victim's advocate, the victim, witnesses, the defendant, the defense attorney, representatives from batterer treatment programs, and representatives from both Spartanburg and Greenville's domestic violence shelters who provide the counseling for the victims of domestic violence. We realized that in the last set of statistics, South Carolina was number 2 in the nation for homicides by a domestic partner. It was time to specialize court. There are other counties that specialize it, but not many bring in somebody from the Attorney General's office to prosecute. And this particular prosecutor trains all over the state. Judges, police officers, lawyers, she trains everybody. In fact, she was a major factor in drafting the new Domestic Violence Act that we are now using as our new law. So with that, we just decided that it was the perfect time. Everybody was on board. We are the only upstate municipality that has requested this. Right now, we will become the 9th municipality in the state that has this program, and there are only 3 counties that have this program. So we're extremely excited to have this beginning on October 8th, and we would love to have anybody that wants to come and see how this process is going to go. I'm sure we'll have some kinks to work out. We have a 3-month trial period to work all of that out with them, but our hearings are always public and are open to everybody that would like to come in. And again, we're so excited that we're able to get this up and running this year. At this point, I'll take any questions.
That's great. And, kudos. That's congratulations to y'all for doing that. I think that's a wonderful program. Can you give us an update or some more information on recent ruling in regarding public defenders?
You're speaking of the proviso attached to the budget.
Yes.
What we know right now is that we've got till October the 1st to develop whatever the contract may need to be with each county. Our meeting with Greenville is actually tomorrow morning. Okay. So all the municipalities in Greenville will come together to find out what their proposal is. We honestly don't use their services very much. I've tracked it since April. There is no true tracking mechanism through the Public Defender's Office or through our court. So when I saw this, we started just manually tracking. And since April, I've only had one that's requested it actually obtain those services. Everybody else gets the form. They, for one reason or the other, decide not to go, decide they can't pay the $40 application fee, whatever their circumstances may be. Some don't intend to come to court ever again. That's just their way to get out that day because they know they get an automatic continuance to seek an attorney because that's their right. So we really don't use the services much. We'll be interested to see their proposal. I'm sure there's a monetary amount attached. Our biggest concern is out of every budget, there is a large percentage that already goes to the State Indigent Defense Fund, which we feel more than covers our usage of that. For example, out of our last budget, approximately $32,000 of that budget went towards indigent defense for the state. And if you look at within 4 or 5 months, we've only sent one person. And that does not mean that that person is going to get a trial. Oftentimes those are pled out before, so the involvement of that attorney may be very, very minute. So those are things that we will discuss tomorrow. It's in the law. We'll pretty much have to come up with some kind of contract. But they will not provide the services if we can't come to something, which at that point there are other options. We can find someone to do that on a contract basis, which the city of Greer did many, many years ago. They contracted out for a public defender. So there are options. I kind of wonder if the legislatures realized how much money was already coming into that fund. Because of the amount that we have, that would almost fund a full-time attorney, and we in no shape or form use that amount of service through the Public Defender's Office, not for our level of court.
Okay. Others? I'm intrigued by 2 different things. 5,000 nails on the tennis courts? What was that about?
Sergeant Richardson has he told me that that's what they did. Normally it's trash pickup. I'm not sure if Ann maybe is more familiar with why there were so many nails, or if they were pulled out for a reconstruction of it. But that was a great use of our manpower. That's a great sentence for somebody. That I would hope would make them think again.
Okay, and lastly, we're to assume that there was no pillow talk that preceded this new court arrangement?
Strictly professional. I would in no way influence his decisions.
Well, whatever it took,
It
it worked
usually
well.
does.
We'll leave it at that. How about that? Anything else? Great job. Y'all do a super job with your resources over
Thank
there,
you.
and do an excellent job. And it only takes an observation of riding by there on Wednesday morning and the other days during the court to realize that y'all operate at the height of efficiency, and we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe with that we move to the administrator's report. Mr. Driggers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Mostly some calendar items. One of those is to remind you and to encourage you to participate in the pedestrian and bike path plan information that will be presented. We've distributed information throughout our community. We're doing our best to get the word out. That will be taking place on Thursday, September the 3rd. It's from 5:30 until 7:30 over at the Cannon Center. As you are aware, we've been working under a grant through GPATS and with our consultant group from Alta in developing a community plan. That plan is not finalized. It is part of the process now for us to receive additional community input from our residents and visitors to our community as well. And we are certainly hoping for a good turnout that evening, and we hope that you'll be able to do that as well. And if you're able to make it that night, Ann is just always so clever to make sure that we'll have a handy-dandy reflector for your bike or a pedometer for you as you go out onto the walking trails. So she's just simply offering that as just a small gift for those folks who will come and spend some time with us on that evening, that Thursday evening, again, September the 3rd. As a matter of calendar items, just more of a human nature type story. Our police department will be involved in what has now become their annual softball tournament. They have about 12 teams that will be participating this Saturday out at Century Park, and as you may recall, that is a fundraiser event that they do for a scholarship fund for injured or slain officers that are injured or killed in the line of duty. This is a scholarship fund for the families, the children of those officers. And they've been participating in this for a number of years. We're very, very grateful and glad that we do not have the need for one of our own personnel for that, but we do know that we have colleagues here in the upstate that unfortunately that need does exist, and we're very, very glad to participate. So encourage you, if you'd like to come out and see some good softball Saturday morning, they'll be at Century Park doing that. As Ms. Presley did indicate, we will be meeting tomorrow. She and I will be traveling over and meeting with the other administrators, managers, and court administrators throughout Greenville County with our public defender as we try to get some additional information. We are not anticipating that any type of negotiations or decisions will be made at that meeting. This is the initial contact for us to start to develop the framework of that agreement that the mayor was referencing a few moments ago. Also, just as a reminder, we mentioned this at your last meeting on September the 10th. We'll be celebrating with all of our employee team for a very successful past year of safety practices. We're now exceeding that 365-day mark. I'm trying to remember on the calendar.
Close to 400.
We clicked over the 400-day mark. And so we've got the FUD truck coming in to have lunch with our employees down at the Cannon Center, and we hope that you can come in and celebrate that milestone achievement with us as well. Speaking of our employees gathering together, we'll also have our employee benefits fair That'll be taking place on September the 17th, and you should receive some additional information on that as well. At your direction, we were also meeting with the Planning Commission, the Board of Architectural Review, and the Zoning Board of Appeals. That will be a joint training session that we will conduct with them on September the 15th. We'll start that afternoon at about 2:30, I believe it is, and then we'll run into the early evening for that meeting. But we'll have some additional information, reminders coming to you on that. We don't always have the opportunity to meet with all of those groups at the same time, and that's one of the reasons we're excited about this training opportunity. So I do indeed hope that your schedule will allow you to participate in that session as well. Those are the items that I have to report to you this evening. Certainly available to answer any questions that you may have relative to tonight's agenda or any of the items contained in our department reports that were presented earlier this evening.
Thank you, sir. And council, as the administrator mentioned, he will be available for questions or comments in regards to his report if you need an update or more information in that regard. We'll move to items of new business, the first of which is Freedom Blast, which we certainly enjoyed this year. I think one of, if not the most spectacular fireworks show that I have seen, and thank the efforts of our city staff and particularly our recreation department is they work hard every year to make sure that we have a good time and get to celebrate the sacrifices that our men and women of the military service have made, and also to do that at a time of year when we typically find ourselves celebrating our independence. And I say time of year because that can vary a little bit. Ms. Cunningham is here this evening to make a request of us in regards to next year's event. So, Ms. Cunningham, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's common practice that at the completion of our events, we bring in our partners, our staff members, to sit down at the table to go over and evaluate all of our programs, always looking for ways to improve and make our events better each year. When we held our Freedom Blast recap meeting, a major issue for our partners, and that would be the South Carolina National Guard, the South Carolina Aviation Support Team, Disabled American Veterans, AMVETS, and numerous other military and veteran groups, expressed great concern that the scheduled date for the event in 2016 is July the 2nd. Their commitment to participate on a holiday weekend is just uncertain. Other concerns, again, were with securing food and amusement vendors that would be competing with other festivals, securing entertainment for a reasonable fee, as well as competing for participation. When this information was shared with our Recreation Association Board of Trustees at our quarterly meeting on July 30th, they unanimously voted to request approval from City Council to change the date for holding Freedom Blast in Greer City Park to Saturday, June the 25th, 2016. The reasoning behind this request is that Freedom Blast was created not as a 4th of July event, but as an event to honor our military servicemen and women and veterans that have and continue to serve our country. It's our opportunity to thank them for their many sacrifices in ensuring our freedom. You know, this event is for them, and we're not sure that they can come. On behalf of the Recreation Association Board of Trustees, I'd like to ask for your consideration in moving the event date for Freedom Blast in 2016 to June 25th, and that the recurring event date be held the last weekend in June of each year. Thank you.
Council, this comes before you as a recommendation from the Recreation Department and the Board of Trustees for the Recreation Department. For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion or questions. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes.
Thank you. And I do want to address the nails. That's for our clay courts. It's to secure our straps. So when we redo the courts, we have to take all those nails out. So quite a lot of nails. So we appreciated their help.
Mystery solved. I knew it was just a matter of getting to the right person. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Next item we have before us this evening is the first and final reading of Resolution 9-2015. This is a resolution to accept Redcroft subdivision streets, namely York-Mott Way, Comabee Court, Graywell Court, Allenton Way, and Redcroft Drive from Station 0+00 to 1500 into the City of Greer street system. Mr. Grant, our city engineer, joins us this evening to give us information in regards to this request.
Evening, Mayor and Council. We recently received a request to accept the streets from Red Cross subdivision into the city system. Myself and Skipper Burns, Public Service Director, and Anthony Copeland, our stormwater inspector, visually went to the site and visually inspected the streets and found them to be in good condition, and staff recommends that we accept these into the city.
Council, you hear the recommendation of staff. Do I hear a motion to receive?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions for the engineer? Ms. Adams?
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Ms. Bookert.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we also have the first and final reading of Resolution Number 10-2015, a resolution to accept the village at Bent Creek subdivision streets, namely Chandler Crest Court and Park Ridge Circle, into the City of Greer street system. Mr. Grant?
Yes, sir. We also recently received a request for the Bent Creek subdivision, and myself, Mr. Burns, and Anthony Copeland did a field inspection and found the streets to be in good condition, and staff recommends we accept them into the city system.
Entertain a motion to receive
A motion. Second.
based on the recommendation of our staff. We have a motion and a second in that regard. Any questions or comments for the engineer? Hearing none. Ms. Adams?
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Ms. Bookert.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, neither the administrator or I have any items for executive session. We stand adjourned.